Welcome to So Mom, a conversation where two generations swap stories and smarts. I'm Adele Griffin.
And I'm Dr. Priscilla Sands.
Hi, Mom.
Hi, Deli.
It's good to see you in a little square.
In a little square, I feel like a postage stamp.
How was your trip to Philly? You're in Philly now.
I am. So far, it's great. Doing this podcast at your aunt's house, my sister. And I am going to my reunion on Saturday. And it is my 60th reunion. And I have to tell you that when I worked at my school, I had an office and I was next to the head. And I remember going into her and saying, those crazy old ladies, they are nuts. And then they start laughing like they're 17 again. And I thought it was just the weirdest thing to have somebody at a 60th or 50th reunion. Yeah. And I rented a car.
Oh, what kind of car? Do you remember when you rented a car when we went to Beverly's wedding when we were in Rhode Island? And you're a good car renter. You're sort of a maverick. It's like you take on another identity. Did you take on another identity?
I did. And I went in and said, hey, what you got for me? So they brought me out to a little Matchbox car. And I've always had black cars. I like dark cars. I like it so that
Wait, I would like a Matchbox car. A little car.
Well, yeah, you would, but I don't. I want something a little bigger that's between me and death. And so...
Wait, what do you mean? A little bit bigger?
Yeah. So that I'm not crashing into something and just crumpling up.
I would like the Apple car, the lowly worm car. I mean, Okay, so anyway, go ahead. I'm interrupting.
That's all right. But I wanted to tell you that, so I'm always trying to be anonymous on the road. This is bright orange.
Like So Mom. You got the So Mom car.
I have the So Mom car. My bright metallic orange car.
Yeah, that's not a you vibe, but maybe it is.
It might be now. Sort of like a Mary Kay.
In LA, they would say that's the energy that you were projecting.
I guess so.
That was always going to be your car. Is it spring there? Is it allergies or is it good?
It's allergies and beautiful all at the same time. So I can sneeze, have a headache, and think how beautiful it looks.
All in one. That's how I think of Pennsylvania spring. Today, we are thrilled to welcome E. Lockhart to the podcast. She is, of course, the #1 New York Times best-selling author of We Were Liars. There is a whole universe to talk about in terms of We Were Liars. Most recently and excitingly, that it has been adapted as an 8-episode limited series for Amazon Prime that releases June 18th. Well, we'll do more about that later. She has written many, many other books, including the Ruby Oliver Quartet series. Her novel, The Disreputable History of Frankie Landau Banks, was a finalist for both the National Book Award for Young People's Literature and the Michael Prince Award. Under the name Emily Jenkins, she's collaborated with illustrators to produce so many beautiful children's books and picture books, including our family favorite, Toys Go Out and Lemonade in Winter. She is co-author of the best-selling Upside Down Magic series. She has a doctorate in English literature from Columbia with a focus on the 19th century novel, and she's been a chair of the Committee on Young People's Literature for the National Book Award. And, of course, We Were Liars won the Goodreads Choice Award and was Amazon's #1 novel of the year. It is a huge honor for you to be here with us today. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.
So before we delve into all of your work and career, I wanted to tell a personal story. I flew from Los Angeles to New York yesterday, and I read We Were Liars on the plane. And I will say it is the only time And anybody who's flown with me know that I get very antsy toward the end of a flight. It's so hard to sit still. It is the only flight in my entire life I wanted to say to the pilot, could you just fly around for an hour? I have 1 hour more in the best book.
Thank you. One of my real passions, I think, as a writer is, who loves you when you behave badly, right? So I like Toys Go Out, which is a book I wrote for much younger readers. The toys are often behaving badly. There's a lot of tantrums that happen in that book, and I've written lots of picture books where characters have some kind of big meltdown, right? And then are kind of loved anyway or redeemed, through the expression of their rage and like validating the experience of that uh small child who has done something that other people don't like. And I think I'm often writing about that in my books for teenagers also. It's what do you do with yourself when you have done something much more unforgivable than having a tantrum?
Mhm.
I'm not always asking that question, but I am very often asking that question. Like, can you still love yourself? Can anybody love you? Can you go on? Can you be a good person when you have done something, really rotten?
I can see that. I feel like that's a thread. That's in
Yeah.
Genuine Fraud.
Yeah,
I
for
feel like
sure.
it's in Frankie. The moral compass is a little bit, just sort of daring.
You.
I mean, that's clearly a space that you like to play in, for
Yeah,
sure.
yeah. It's true in Family of Liars also, which is
Yeah,
the prequel to We Were Liars. Very much so.
yeah. We definitely, Mom and I were talking earlier, wanted to ask you about growing up as the daughter of a playwright
That's
and then collaborating.
Oh my gosh, that's such ancient history. But yeah, my parents were divorced when I was little. When I was only about two, and I mostly lived with my mom. But my dad is a playwright named Len Jenkin, and had a really wonderful career on the New York stage, the off Broadway stage. And so I would come to visit him and spend big chunks of the summers with him, either in New York or sometimes in LA, where he would be working in the theater. And I think there were no babysitters in the 70s. There didn't, I never had a babysitter in my life that I can
That's
remember.
true.
And
It's kind of great.
so I just sat in the back of the theater and watched rehearsal. And sometimes I was bored. I remember reading the book of lists in the back of the theater with a flashlight.
Funny.
Um,
That's very Harriet the Spy.
yeah, but I also sometimes was not bored. And I think it is an extremely good part of my education as a novelist to have watched, hour after hour of rehearsal and you see how a story changes with edits, but also with actor inflection or changes in blocking or when the lights and the costumes and the set are brought into place, how the story, kind of comes to full fruition, how sound design adds to a story, all that kind of thing. So I was watching that happen in real time. Yeah.
It's so interesting.
I think that it was a huge gift to have a working artist as a father, you know?
Yes.
So many people who want to live a creative life don't get to have that, right? And he was just there every day, living a life where he was making things on the stage,
Right.
and so it never occurred to me that that was not an option. It was always an option, and there were always actors and directors and other playwrights and, set designers and costume designers in the world that he was operating in. And I remember like one of his best friends was a 3D print artist and lived in this like amazing loft apartment that had like a printmaking studio in the back of it. And we would go and I would be allowed to like make, silkscreen prints and,
Okay.
all that kind of thing. So, that's just a gift for a kid with an imagination, just to know that there's this artistic life
Yeah.
available to you.
Yeah.
And I think so many people have to really find that because that's not what's happening in their family of origin.
Yeah, I think that's true. I think that's true. And so fun. Well, when mom went back to school, she was a theater major, so we were always
Well, you
just like,
were. I did not know that.
yeah,
Yeah, I was. And Adele grew up in the 70s and she never had babysitters except people in my theater classes. And
all the cast of The Miracle Worker, the
yeah,
cast of The Prime of Miss Jean Brodie. That's where mom grabbed her babysitters. The
Oh,
cast of
that's
Lil
funny.
Abner.
so many people in the theater. And she sat in the back and she and her brother and they collected programs and probably gum from under the seats.
So that's how you became a novelist.
Probably, yeah. And it's very collaborative, actually, watching all the different people put together something
Yeah.
out of nothing, just your dad's idea. I am curious about something because you have written picture books, chapter books, middle grade, young adult. You have so many ideas. I've always known you as somebody with ideas percolating. Like that is the way I think of you, sort of thinking about something, going back to something
Really?
else.
I feel like I have no ideas. I feel like a desert. I feel like, oh my
No,
God, it's so hard for me to
that's not.
get an idea to go and make it.
Well, then, we can skip this question. We can go right
I
to
don't
the
know.
next
What's the
thing. Well,
question?
my question is sort of when you get an idea, is it an early piece of the idea to think this is for younger? No, this is older, or does the idea sort of live in a form that's just sort of the story idea, and then you think I can see this going this direction, or does it come sort of more baked into here's an idea for very young people. Here's an idea for medium-sized people.
Oh, yeah. No, it's always clear what age category the thing is, but it is very hard for me to really get an idea. It is.
Really?
Yeah. I think it's also partly that the best thing for me to do as a creative person, and I would like to know if you have this experience or not, is to consume books. Art galleries are often like going to see art shows, especially like things I don't even know what the heck I'm going to see. It's often incredibly fertile for my imagination in ways that I can't even quite process until later. Um, Going to films, watching TV, um, traveling, but mostly absorbing literature. And um, given my job, I think, and my need for a lot of sleep, I um I don't absorb. I just don't consume. I don't read as much as I actually need to in order to be the best version of my storytelling self. Um, and so I don't spend enough time not writing, is really what I'm saying.
I
And
feel like my child puts me more in touch with that, that I was good at going to see movies and exhibits and things, and I was sort of young and I had energy, and then I
yeah,
can easily just say a nap on top of a nap is a good.
right. You can only write the best book you can, right? And put it out in the world. And some books feel bigger than others for whatever reasons. But sometimes what I perceive to be something people might be excited about and love, they don't. And sometimes my publisher makes that clear before the book's ever coming out. And sometimes they're excited, and that's great.
Yep.
Do you know what I mean? But you can't really get more involved with it than that. You can be like, I'm a little disappointed in like how excited they are, or I'm a little disappointed in the reception once it came out. They were excited, but the world was not so excited. Or yay, that was great.
Yeah.
That felt good. I feel lucky. That was nice. I have readers I want to communicate, and I
Yep.
get to. And this is a nice part of the job. But really, you can only be involved with like, I'm writing a thing. I'm trying to make a thing. I'm going to make this thing with these friends of mine, or I'm going to go off to a TV set watch how those people make and contribute to the way that they're going to make a thing. And that's interesting. I'm focused on like the making.
Yeah.
I'm not focused on the reception. The reception is just a thing that could make me mentally ill if I got involved with it.
Right. I understand
So
that. And yet, I guess my follow-up question is that with everybody sort of having so much opinion and so much thought around it, as it is going into this sort of next phase of being, adapted for film, did you feel that you were coming up against like what a lot of people had sort of preconceived thoughts about what this should be, because, it was very owned by a lot of people for a
Yeah.
lot of years, so it was already very big. So I am curious about, where you set down lines, if how you were involved, if you were involved, like where were you?
Well, I was very involved, and so We Were Liars is made by Julie Pleck and Karina Adley Mackenzie, who are co-showrunners. So when I sold the book, I sold it to them with their commitment to be the creative leads on the project. And that's not always true, as you know, when you sell something for film or television. Very often you're selling it to a producer, and there's nobody creative attached at that point. And then you go looking for people who want to be part of it. So I knew exactly who was going to make this television, and I knew what they had done. They make super bingeable shows with a lot of the hottest vampires you have ever encountered. Um, and I like think they make like very, very luscious, fun, romantic television. Um, and I knew that that was going to be part of what they were going to bring to the table, that they were excited. They saw this as a deeply romantic and lush and beautiful piece. Um, but then they have to just go make the thing that they're gonna make, you know what I mean? I wrote an episode, I wrote the finale, I was involved with the casting, and I felt like that was a really beautiful place to contribute
Mhm.
to what the show was going to be, because having the kinda cast that we have made all the difference in the world, and w we spent a really long time looking for those young actors and for the characters who are play the older characters, and really thinking about what energy and what talent and skill we wanted, on the screen, and we got people who have incredible amounts of nuance and just incredible acting skills. So I feel really excited about that, and I think that people who know the book are gonna really respond to those actors and to what they bring. Um, but that said, like, you can't please everybody,
Right,
right?
right.
And the only thing that's out right now when we're recording this is a 15-second date announcement trailer, and it basically shows the 4 main characters, the liars of the title, run, 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 run to the end of a dock. They
Yeah.
jump off the dock, and then it gets really dark and gothic, and it says, "Something terrible happened last summer." And that's it. And then it says, "We Were Liars,"
Oh, so excited.
Prime Video. And so the response to that and, also, since we're talking about mental health as a writer or a creative person generally, you know, don't read the comments, don't read Goodreads, right? Don't do any of this. Do not fixate on the reception. But in this case, the reception to this is literally my Instagram comments, right? They're like all right there. And
Right.
I want to acknowledge people who are coming and saying they're excited about the show because those are my readers, right? So I'm just hearting their responses, but I'm seeing the responses, which I don't normally do. I don't normally get involved with like whatever people are saying about my stuff on the internet. But what they're saying is, "Oh, it's just how I imagined. It's just how I imagined. It's just how I imagined." And so that does make me happy.
Yeah.
I'm happy. I know what it feels like to see um a trailer for a book I've loved suddenly on screen and be like, "Oh my god, it's that book."
So
Right?
true.
Or, "Oh my," I felt this way about Margot Robbie as Harley Quinn. I was like, "Oh, there she is. It's Harley."
they couldn't help but like it. It's so wonderful, but I think it's also it is very satisfying to hear that you had such a good experience, because there are writers who have this treasured book and then the translation isn't what they thought and they're unhappy, or they're not allowed on set, or they haven't been encouraged to participate or to have input. And that can feel very disjointed. And I have friends and colleagues who have had that happen. And, having your own ownership and your own imprimatur.
Thank you. I mean, I think yes, but also, you know, why do I feel good about it? Also because I let go. Do
Oh,
you know what I
Oh,
mean?
yeah.
It was not mine
Yeah.
to clutch to my chest and try to make it exactly how it was in my imagination. It was mine to give to other people and to help them and to be kind of a godmother and contributor to their version of this story, you know? And I think that this is the nature of collaboration, right? Like sometimes it's let's link arms and we're completely in lockstep. And sometimes it's like somebody is going to bring something new to the table that you have to just be delighted that they're bringing a new thing to the table. And what's on the table,
well, that's a
right?
very interesting, and it's interesting that sort of to circle back to collaboration because I think that is, a piece of the skill set
Yeah.
to sort of to know when to say, I think you've got this. I believe in what you can do here
Yeah.
with what I made.
And one of the coolest things that happened to me on the set, and set was hard, partly because we started this conversation by talking about how Adele and I like to go to bed early, and that is not allowed. That is not allowed on the movie set. No, no, no. Everyone is working, and they're working a 12 to 15-hour day, and then there's a commute back to home, and there are night shoots. This terrible things called night shoots, and there's no nap pod or
I'm
anything.
out.
I was like, I've made my own schedule my entire adult life. I was like, oh my God, when is nap time?
I
There was a lot of coffee. There was endless coffee and wonderful snacks all the time, and that was delightful. And we were in the most exquisite locations. We are on the seashore, rocky, beautiful coast of Nova Scotia. So I don't mean to be complaining, but I was very sleepy, Emily.
What's a day look like in 2025? You have you have a book, you have, We Fell Apart,
I have the TV show coming out in June on Prime Video, and then I have We Fell Apart coming out in November.
big
Uh,
year.
so I think I should finish my book that I'm supposed to be writing. Are you writing a book right now?
I am.
Yeah.
I'm
Is it
I'm barreling
is
through.
it
You know what I'm
Strike and
doing?
Burn
The,
2, or is it
Drew and I are doing another companion to Strike and Burn, and then also doing, what was it that your dad said? Just writing it messy. I'm just writing messy, a new book.
yeah, stupid, he
Yeah,
said.
stupid.
No, I don't want to call your book stupid, but you're doing the stupid draft.
Yeah, I'm doing the stupid draft right now.
Okay. And did you outline it up?
No, I can't.
That's so hard.
It's
It's so
like an extra step.
hard.
It sort of takes the fun out. You don't outline?
I do like some very sketchy, like maybe later something like this would happen.
And We Were Liars, June 18th. Do you get them all at once? Yes? You can binge the
Oh, yes.
Yes.
Everything at once.
Oh, no.
I know
will
we'll
do
be up
it.
till 2.
It's 8 hours. It's
Mom.
8 hours of television. We have this amazing actor called David Morse, who's the anchor of our cast. He plays the grandfather character.
David Morse was a former parent of mine in Philadelphia.
Oh, get out. Really?
Yeah.
Yes, really, really.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
He's magnificent. He is
He's
just the real deal.
He was a lovely dad. He has a lovely daughter. And yeah.
Oh, that's so great.
Yeah.
Well, he was really my dream actor for this character, and he came on board, and I think he just, he's won all these Tony Awards, he's been in all these shows, and I think having somebody with that gravitas and that experience attracted some really great other actors to the project, and he signed on early. And so we have Mamie Gummer, we have Caitlin Fitzgerald, and we have Candace King, and we have Raul Coley, and those are our grown-up people. And then we have these like amazing, fresh space, young people, including Emily Ellen Lind, who's a star of the new Gossip Girl, so people know her.
Oh, that's
Um,
fun.
and Joe Zada, who's going to be in the Hunger Games. He's the new Haymitch. But you'll see him in Layers first, so that's cool. And
That's cool.
Esther McGregor, who is an absolute bright delight, and she was in Baby Girl. People have seen her in that.
Yeah.
And then Shubham Maheshwari, who has never been in anything in his life. And this was his first job as an actor. And he was a college student. And he submitted through the open call. We had an open call for actors for We Were Liars and for the teenage characters. And people send in like their headshots. And he sent in his like handsome headshot. And but he'd never taken an acting class. He'd been in some student films. And that's it.
Oh, that's
And then we
fun.
ended up casting him. He graduated from college 1 week before he came to work for us.
I want our listeners to pre-order We Fell Apart. I'm going to remind them to do that and to make sure they are queued up to watch We Are Liars on Prime June 18th. I know in schools you have to repeat things 3 times for for it to sink in, and that is a very important part of our podcast. So take it away, Adele. Yeah, the rule is 3.
Thank you. I love it. I appreciate that. We're recommending books.
We can. Do you want to recommend it? I was going to recommend my pick is The Disreputable History of Frankie Landau Banks. That is a book that I remember I have such a distinct reading experience. It's this it's like a feminist caper kind of set in a boarding school. I read it a while ago, but I loved it.
Thank you.
I loved it.
Oh, I had fun. I didn't go to boarding school, but I always wanted to go to boarding school. And so it's a little bit of a, I read a lot of boarding school books
Yeah.
growing up, and
I love boarding school books.
Yeah.
I wanted to go to boarding school because I went to school with my mother, who was the head of the school. And I
Nothing
would
worse than that.
anywhere, but boarding school had a certain appeal.
but you didn't go.
No, I didn't. I continued to go to school with her.
I actually went to school where my mother taught. Also, my mom was a Montessori teacher. So
Did
I
you?
went to school where my mother taught until I was 9. Yeah.
It's not fun.
Well, my pick is obviously We Were Liars. It's the most recent book I've read, but it was also, and I've had a spate of wonderful books. I just had this group, and so to have this book yesterday was just the cherry on the top of the ice cream sundae of reading, of books.
Thank you. All right, I'm going to recommend a boarding school book.
Oh, yeah.
Which is A Deadly Education by Naomi Novik.
Oh, I don't know.
It is such a great boarding school book. It is a fantasy boarding school book. And it is this boarding school that is a magic school that is absolutely infested with monsters. And it's like, it's sort of been, it's hard to explain, but the monsters are so wonderfully innovative, and it's first person, and the main character is just an incredibly strong, fierce, complicated, sort of messed up kid. And it's, the character's like 16 or 17. And so it's very much YA, but full of monsters and all the boarding school yumminess.
Oh,
Yeah, really. A Deadly Education. Highly recommend.
great title. I'll read that.
Yeah.
I'm in.
It's really good. I had
am.
never read her before. It's one of those writers that everyone always says, "Oh, you haven't read Naomi Novik? You haven't, you would love her. You would love her." And I just hadn't. And then I picked this book up and I was like, "Oh, I love her so much."
It sounds like a book my son would love, and we're always looking for books to read together.
Oh,
Yeah,
that's
And
nice.
so that'll be it. That's So Mom for this week. Subscribe, leave a review, and keep the conversation going across every generation.
Thank you, Emily, so much.
Oh, it was really fun. Thank you guys for being such nice hosts.